and welcome back to my channel, Saying Yes to Life. I'm Delisa Renideo, and welcome to my garden here in Vilcabamba, Ecuador. In my last episode, I talked about reverence, and I explored it and the feeling of quiet awe for life as it continually renews itself. And we often see it the most easily when we're looking at a newborn baby. In the tiny fingers of the baby, the first wobbling steps of a foal, or the green shoots that are pushing through the soil after a rain. Everywhere, life reveals its sacred rhythm of renewal. We can witness it, we can describe it, we can welcome it, and even participate in it, but we cannot control it. There is mystery in every birth, whether it's of a human child or a puppy or a blossom or a new understanding that's dawning in our minds and our hearts. That mystery itself invites reverence. Life is sacred, and each new birth in nature, in spirit, in us is an invitation to stand in awe before the creative intelligence that moves through everything. I've experienced this rhythm many times in my own life. Before each major change in the kind of work that I was doing, I would feel something moving inside me, a kind of inner stirring, like the movement of new life that's not yet visible. I didn't know what it would become, but I knew that something was gestating. I remember telling my husband, "Something's coming. I don't know what it is yet, but I can feel it." And over the years, I learned to trust that feeling, to give it time, to let it develop like a seed beneath the soil. I couldn't rush it, and I didn't try to. I didn't want to. I felt curiosity and anticipation, but mostly I had this sense of allowing. It was just a deep trust in life's timing. Fortunately, my husband learned to trust it too, and to wait patiently for what was being born. And of course, whatever was being born in me was going to affect him, and so I was grateful that he was able to learn to just allow it. Each of us goes through the same process when we allow life to gestate inside us without trying to control it. Something beautiful is born, whether it's a new hobby, a new perspective, or a complete transformation, a new career, a move, or a change in our relationships. But every birth requires that something die, an old identity, a familiar pattern, a belief that no longer fits or serves us. And that can feel unsettling at the time. But when we meet it with reverence and trust, even the dying becomes sacred because it makes space for what's being born. When we look closely, we see that everything in life moves to this same ancient rhythm. There's a time of gestation, something stirring in the dark. There is a labor, the struggle and surrender that precedes emergence. But this is easier if we learn to allow it rather than fighting it. And then there's the birth, the moment when what has been forming within finally comes into the light. We see this rhythm in the seasons. Winter's gestation gives way to spring's unfolding. We see it in the cycles of the moon, in the tides, and in our own breathing, in and out, sleep and awake. Life moves by this rhythm, pulsing within with intelligence and purpose, even when we don't understand it. And I think that's one of the hardest things. Being a human, where we think about it, it's much easier for my dogs and my cats, they move with this rhythm without question. But we like to understand things. Just knowing that this same pattern is always at work can help us. When something new wants to be born, a change of direction, a healing, a deeper understanding, we may first feel some darkness, some confusion or restlessness. And it's as though life has drawn us inward to prepare us for something that we can't yet name. And even though part of us wants to know what's coming, I've learned that the mystery doesn't reveal itself on our schedule, at least not on mine. If we can stay present and we can breathe and trust the process, we begin to sense that this rhythm is not random. It's sacred. It's the same creative pulse that shapes the galaxies. It opens a rose and any other flower and renews every living thing. And when we feel it moving through our own hearts, reverence arises naturally because we know, even without understanding how, that life itself is doing something sacred inside us. We need to know that dying is part of birth. Every birth carries a death within it. Just as a seed's shell must split for the sprout to emerge, something in us must also give way for the new to live. Old stories, identities, attachments, they can't all make the journey forward with us. They've served their purpose, and now their time is complete. This part of the cycle can feel painful, confusing, or frightening. We may sense something ending before we know what's beginning. It can feel like standing in the dark with no clear sense of direction. But this, too, is sacred ground. When we approach life with reverence, we can honor the parts that need to die, the things we must release, and even feel gratitude for the role that they played in our lives during their time. And in that gratitude, loss begins to soften. It becomes part of the sacred exchange that allows new life to bloom. I don't know if you've heard of Joanna Macy. She's an author and teacher who just recently died. She calls this process that I'm describing, the great unfolding, she calls it the great turning. It's not only a shift in our world, but an inner turning from fear and avoidance to participation, from control to trust, from separation to connection. And importantly, we cannot renew the world without also renewing our perception of it. Because how we see the world shapes how we relate to it. If we see life as a struggle for survival, we live in tension and fear. If we see life as sacred, as something alive and intelligent and interconnected, we begin to move differently in our world. Our choices, our relationships, even the way we breathe and walk begins to express reverence instead of control. When perception shifts, everything shifts. The world itself begins to look new, not because it has changed overnight, but because we are seeing with clearer eyes, with softer hearts and a deeper sense of belonging. This is how renewal begins, not just around us, but through us. We need to learn to allow this process. Transformation cannot be forced or demanded or controlled. When we meet life with humility, we make space for the mystery to work within us. When we stay present through the uncertainty, something begins to take shape quietly and naturally. What's born through this process may not look dramatic. Often it's just maybe a gentler self, a new way of seeing, a deeper trust in life. And these tender new beginnings within us need our care, the same patience and warmth that we would offer any newborn. Reverence gives us that patience. It reminds us, let it unfold, don't rush it. When we live with reverence, we stop seeing change as something to fear or control. We begin to recognize it as the movement of life itself. breathing through us, reshaping us, guiding us toward fuller expression of who we are and who we are becoming. Reverence allows us to surrender to that movement, and it reminds us that the same wisdom that opens a rose or turns an embryo into a child, and a child gradually into an adult, it's also working within us. We don't have to make it happen. We simply need to allow it. And I picked some flowers to show you today. Here's a rose in full bloom, and we watch it as it gradually opens from a nice fat bud, and eventually the rose petals get brown, fall off, and die, and a new rose is born. And this little flower, I don't even know what it is, but we watch this blooming all around us, and it invites the insects to come to it. And the insects are part of this process of new birth because, of course, they're doing pollination, which is allowing for new birth to happen. And so this isn't something that's happening all by itself. It's an interactive process where all of life is supporting all of other life. And this little tiny flower, which I also don't remember the name of, look how tiny these little flowers are. But the hummingbirds come to these all the time, and they dip their long, pointy little beaks in there and then flurry away. And how much are they getting from this? But this is part of this interaction of life. They are pollinating while they're being fed. And that, to me, is such a call for reverence. Nature knows how to do this. There's this intelligence that just happens without us having to figure it out. So through this reverence, we begin to trust the great intelligence of life, that unseen rhythm that knows exactly when to open and when to rest. We start to understand that with our own becoming is part of something vast and holy and sacred, a creative unfolding that never ends. And with that realization, life feels less like something to manage and more like something to participate in, to celebrate. We become both the birthing process and what is being born. And through it all, reverence is there, the quiet midwife of every transformation. So every cycle of growth in nature and within us holds both mystery and grace. We can't force it, but we can welcome it. We can't always see what's forming, but we can choose to trust the intelligence that moves through all of life, including our own. So I invite you to take a quiet moment right now and ask yourself, what in me might be gestating now, quietly forming in the dark? What am I being asked to let go of so that something new can take root? How can I meet my own inner changes with that same tenderness that I would offer a newborn? And what feels sacred in my current stage of becoming? You don't need to find specific answers to these questions. You may have some sense of it, but it doesn't need to be clear or complete. Just listening is enough. Just asking the questions begins a process within. And when we listen with reverence, we begin to sense life moving through us, whispering to us its new beginnings. Every ending, every beginning, every quiet in-between moment, all of it's part of that sacred rhythm of life. And when we say yes to that rhythm, we are saying yes to life itself. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for giving birth to yourself in newer versions in every moment. And thank you for sharing this video with anybody that you think it might be beneficial for. See you next time.